This is basically the story of my first year of flight and the process of having my airplane painted. If you watched my YouTube documentary on building an experimental airplane, you may remember that it ended in May of 2017 with the successful first flight of my RV-12. Fast forward a year to May of 2018, and I'm very happy to say the project is complete. The airplane has been painted, and my interior carpet and leather upholstery are installed. It's been an interesting year, and I've been looking forward to making this video update. I now have over 60 hours of flight time on the plane. Most of the time has been spent flying family and friends around Northern California. My home airport is in the California Central Valley, so one of my favorite flights is a sightseeing tour of the San Francisco Bay Area. With a little planning and modern navigation equipment, it's pretty easy to stay clear of the San Francisco International Class Bravo airspace. Here you can have some amazing views of Sausalito, the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, and San Francisco. This is definitely popular with passengers. There are many fun flights within an hour of flight time from Lodi Airport. Last summer, I flew my youngest son, Trevor, to Columbia Airport for their annual Father's Day fly-in. Columbia is a beautiful little airport in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. There were some great planes on display, and we spent a few hours with my daughter Stephanie, who lives near Columbia. Among other fun flights was a trip to Salinas to watch the World Superbike races at Laguna Seca, and a trip up to Mendocino on the beautiful North Coast. By the way, my plane runs primarily on premium unleaded auto fuel. This flight to Mendocino was my first chance to use an airport fuel pump and fill the tank with 100 low-lead aviation fuel. The high lead content is not great for my Rotax engine, but I use a fuel additive containing Decalin, which helps to mitigate the effects of the lead. Another thing that happens after you fly the airplane for a couple months is that you start to think about improvements. For example, one of the RV-12 options available from Vans are fairings for the wheels, also known as wheel pants. These fiberglass fairings will add a few knots to your cruise speed and also look nice, at least after they're painted. It was a $750 option, so I decided to wait. I figured that until the plane was painted, I would like to be able to easily inspect the tires, wheels, and brakes. If you install the wheel pants, you can no longer see the wheels. So after several months of flying, I decided to buy the wheel pants kit. Since I was confident that I had no issues with the landing gear, Vans also came out with a stronger nose wheel fork, so I decided to upgrade that at the same time. I was amazed at how time-consuming it was to properly fit and install the wheel pants. It was probably about 40 hours of labor until I was really happy with them. The natural translucent green fiberglass was not attractive, so I primed them gray to match the rest of my fiberglass components. It was a lot of work, but in the end, I'm really happy I installed them. Another option I decided to install was a second Dynon Skyview 10-inch display. When I originally ordered my avionics in 2016, I thought that the single display would be fine because one display supports all the functions you need from your EFIS, or Electronic Flight Information System. Also, if you install the second display, you lose the nice little utility map box that comes standard on the right side of the panel. There were also a lot of other reasons I didn't order it up front, probably about 5,000, if you know what I mean. However, after about 6 months of flying with the single screen, I realized what a great upgrade it would be to add the second screen. This would allow me to have my flight instruments and engine management information on the screen directly in front of me, and also dedicate the full 10-inch second display to the moving map function, which also displays traffic and weather. With the simple touch of a button, you can swap the screens back and forth. Another advantage is that if your primary display fails, you have an alternate. This happened to me, and I had to cancel a flight until I got my display back after being repaired. So I ordered the feature from Vans and installed it in December 2017. Now that I've been flying for several months with both screens, I would never go back. It made me a little sad at first to remove the map box, but it was a little awkward to use anyway, and the second Skyview screen is amazing. By far, it's my favorite upgrade. The upgrades and improvements over my first year of flying have been great, but the main thing that was always in the back of my mind was the paint job. I couldn't stand to put it off much longer. It would never be a completed airplane to me until it was painted. The prospect of actually painting the plane made me nervous and excited at the same time. It would be a huge commitment in terms of money and time. And what if I didn't like it? That would be a disaster. All kinds of crazy thoughts were going through my mind. A convenient reason to stall on the paint job was financial. I knew that a high-quality paint job would be at least $10,000. My airplane fund was severely depleted when I learned that I owed the great state of California, $5,600 for what they called use tax, which is the equivalent of sales tax. Imagine my surprise when shortly after I registered my new experimental airplane with the FAA, I received a tax bill from the state of California. They have you add up all the money you spent building the plane, then charge you about 8% of that for the privilege of using it in California. Of course, they were very kind and gave me about 30 days to pay before penalties and interest would begin. I did ask them what services the state of California would be providing for me in my airplane for the $5,600. That's funny. They had no response. What a surprise. At least it's only a one-time tax. However, I will have to pay them about 1% of the plane's value every year for personal property tax. Oh well, death and taxes. On a brighter note, it's time to get serious about painting the airplane. I'm ready to decide on a paint shop and get this adventure started. There were a few airplane painters in Northern California and Nevada that had good reputations, but I just wasn't ready to commit. I remember that Vans Aircraft sells a production version of the RV-12. I had always admired the paint job on these production planes, so I decided to find out from Vans who paints them. It turns out that there is a company in Eugene, Oregon, about 90 miles south of Vans, called Synergy Air that builds the production RV-12 for Vans. Since my plane was already built and flying, I decided to ask Synergy if they would be willing to paint my RV-12. At that point in time, they were not in the airplane painting business other than the production model. As fate would have it, I met the owner of Synergy Air at Oshkosh in July of 2017. His name is Vaden Francisco, and I was very impressed with his knowledge and passion for Vans Aircraft and the RV-12. I told him what I wanted, and he shared with me that they were ramping up to paint builders' airplanes. He thought they would be ready by early 2018, which was great timing for me. I asked Vaden to let me know when I could come up to Eugene to discuss all the details and get on their schedule. After exchanging email in early January of 2018, I scheduled a meeting with Vaden and his painter for Monday, January 15th. I had a great meeting with them. We discussed price, schedules, designs, and logistics. I paid them a deposit and was officially put on their schedule for delivering my plane on Monday, March 12th. One of the things I really love about Synergy Air is their willingness to allow you to work with them. When I was preparing to fly my plane up to Eugene Airport, Vans Aircraft released 2 new service bulletins for the RV-12. I was able to purchase the parts from Vans, but I didn't have time to install them before leaving. More on that later. So the day was finally here, Sunday morning, March 11, 2018. I had my flight bag and a small suitcase. I wasn't sure how many days I would stay. I knew they would have the plane for 4 to 6 weeks, but I could only stay for a few days. I wanted to finish a couple service bulletins on the stabilator and to be sure I was comfortable leaving the airplane. I knew I would have to deal with some level of separation anxiety since it was the first time the plane was out of my control. It sounds funny, but when you build a plane from scratch, I found it very hard to leave it. It was a beautiful day for flying in the Pacific Northwest. The approximate 400 nautical mile trip from Lodi to Eugene would be my longest cross-country flight in the new plane. I planned for one fuel stop in Weed, California. Weed is a beautiful little airport that sits at the base of majestic Mount Shasta, which rises over 14,000 feet in elevation. On the way, I flew over Lake Shasta and also got a nice picture of Mount Shasta off my right wing. I was hoping I could get the same picture when I fly the plane home in a month or two, but this time it would be the left wing and the wing would be painted. After getting fuel and a couple pictures on the ground at Weed, I continued north to Eugene. There's lots of beautiful country in Southern Oregon, so I really enjoyed the flight. Before I knew it, I was on final for 3-4 left at Eugene and cleared to land. I taxied to the south parking area and tied down the plane just outside of the large Synergy hangar. It was late Sunday afternoon, so nobody would be around until Monday morning. I walked over to the main terminal and picked up my rental car. Time to go have dinner and head to my hotel. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. I got up bright and early Monday morning because I wanted to be at the airport when Synergy opened at 7 a.m. They welcomed me back and we got right down to business. After a short meeting with the team, we pulled my plane in the hangar and started removing the wings. Wow, the painting process had really started. Synergy allowed me to assist with disassembling the plane for painting. Then when I had the stabilator removed, they gave me a workbench in their hangar for 2 days so I could install all the new parts from the recent service bulletins. This was significant because the parts that strengthen the stabilator and anti-servo tabs are visible and would need to be painted, so it was great to finish this work before the painting started. After spending a couple days finalizing paint colors and design, I was ready to head home. There were no good flights available to get me back to the Sacramento area, so I decided to try the train. In my 59 years, I can't remember any long train trips, so this 12-hour train ride from Eugene down to Sacramento actually seemed like a nice, relaxing way to get home. I paid the extra $30 for business class, which made the ride all the much nicer. The train was scheduled to leave Eugene around 5 p.m., arriving in Sacramento at 5 a.m. the next morning. I returned my rental car at the airport, then got a ride to the train station in central Eugene. It was a charming old station and had probably been there the last 100 years. My train was on time and I was very pleasantly surprised by the business class car. The seat was amazing, tons of legroom, and it reclined to almost full horizontal. It had free Wi-Fi, so I was able to get some work done, and I had a nice dinner in the dining car. For most of the trip, I had beautiful scenery out of my window, and I was able to sleep 5 to 6 hours before arriving at the main Sacramento station about 5 a.m. Overall, it was a great and relaxing experience, and I had already decided that this is the way I will travel back to Eugene to pick up my plane. Now that I'm home, the hard part begins, waiting for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I will have to be patient and trust Synergy to do all the right things. Fortunately, I was very busy at work for the next month, so the time passed quickly. I must admit that I went to my empty hangar several times just to visit some of the locals and be around other airplanes. After a few weeks had passed, they sent me a few teaser photos. That was very encouraging and I loved the way it was looking. I asked them to give me about a 1 week notice before the plane was ready so I could get back up there and help with reassembly. As it worked out, it was also exactly 1 year since my initial airworthiness certificate was issued, back in April of 2017. So I had to complete my annual condition inspection before I flew it home. Again, Synergy is great to work with, and they let me use their hangar and tools to perform the inspection. I also had the assistance of their techs when I needed them for a very reasonable hourly rate. So approximately 6 weeks after I came home from Eugene, I was back on the train to pick up my airplane. I was really excited and could not wait to see the painted plane in person. I arrived at Synergy at 7 a.m. Monday morning, April 30th. After saying some brief hellos at the front office, I went straight back into the hangar to see my airplane. It was still in pieces as I had requested, but the painting was basically complete. I have to say that this was the most amazing experience since my first flight. It was absolutely beautiful, far better than I ever hoped. I must have walked around for an hour just staring at the pieces. The fuselage, the wings, the canopy, the tail pieces, the wheel pants, everything was perfect. Everything was 100% painted. There were no vinyl lettering or numbers. The checkered flag tail design was brilliant. Jim, their painter, probably got tired of me telling him what a genius he is. I wanted to thank everyone there. I knew I was in for a wonderful week, putting this beautiful plane back together and completing my annual. I could not wait to get it home and show it to my family and friends. I joked with Jim that he made it look so good nobody will believe I built it. For the next few days, I was busy reassembling the plane while performing the condition inspection. Part of the inspection is to remove all the floor panels so you can inspect and lubricate all the flight controls. This was also the perfect time to install all of my interior panels and carpeting. I had been storing these pieces in my garage for over a year because I didn't want to install them until after the plane was painted. I love the way it turned out. Now the interior looks more like a professionally finished airplane. All of the interior panels and carpeting, along with the seats, come from a company called Flightline Interiors in Wisconsin. You order them through Vans when you order the finish kit, and you have a great selection of colors and materials. I went with a full leather interior because it was not much more than the fabric option. Flightline does a great job, and they will work with you directly. Another thing on my list was to seal the rear window. This would have normally been done in Section 25A of the fuselage build. I decided to wait on using the sealant until after the airplane was painted. It's much easier to paint the fuselage without the rear window installed. Everything worked out great, and I knew I was on track to fly the plane home on Friday, May 4th. I invited my good friend, Gary, to come up to Eugene on Thursday so he could join me on the flight home. Gary helped me on several occasions when I was preparing for my first test flight last year, so I thought it would be fun for both of us if he could join me for the flight home. We had a great flight back, stopping in Red Bluff, California for fuel. It was such a great feeling to have the plane safely home, finally now complete with paint and interior. I really want to personally thank the team at Synergy Air. They were an amazing group to work with. First of all, Vaden, the owner. He's a great guy and a pleasure to do business with. Then there's Julie in the front office. She handles all the administrative work, and she made me feel very welcome each time I was there. Then there's Jim, bodywork and painter extraordinaire. I just can't get over the work he did. It was incredible. They've got a fantastic airframe and power plant mechanic named Ryan. He's also an RV-12 guru. His advice was invaluable. Then there's Mandy and Taylor. They are technicians that are very capable. Anytime I needed help, they were there to assist me with any project. All of these people are talented and fun to work with. Most importantly, they seem to care about my plane just as much as I did. You couldn't ask for a better situation, and I feel super fortunate to have found them. I want to close with some of my favorite shots. I was able to get that picture with Mount Shasta off the left wing, this time with paint on the wing. I also had an opportunity to get some aerial shots of the plane now that it's been painted. One of my favorite things about the paintwork is that the design on the wings and stabilator were mirrored on the bottom of the plane, so you see the same beautiful paintwork when it passes overhead. I also want to thank everyone that spent their valuable time watching this video. My goal was to make it enjoyable or interesting, hopefully both. Feel free to leave any comments or questions, and I will be happy to respond. Thanks again for your time.